Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a great night. Got a lot done in the yard today. Wow, that was a lot. So for those of you who know, we've had an exceptionally cold Michigan spring, which led to a lot of rain. So we had a ton of rain as well. So it kind of slowed down probably everybody gardening process. So the people that are into gardening, which I never thought I would be considered that, but now you get kind of addicted to it. You're like waiting and waiting because usually it's after Mother's Day. You can start planting in Michigan. This year, it was a little bit more delayed. You could probably do it this week. It finally got into the good temperatures, but a lot of people, didn't do it as much. So, like we're waiting until next week, Memorial Day weekend. Got an extra day, but we got it all like to the point where we could actually just enjoy planting and doing those things. And so I'm doing this cool project in the back where I'm doing these various trees. One day I hope I can get George on, but one of a good friend of mine, George, he was a landscape architect, and really, really big into, what grows really well. And he actually designed me like a hand drawing of this one part of my house or my yard. And I've always wanted to do it and I have not done it yet. And so this year I started last year, getting plants and trees and stuff for this area. But the problem is inexperience. The stupid deer ate the trees that I had. I had these little sapling trees, and it's the stuff you learn, I guess, when you don't do it very often. so that was a thing. So some of my trees didn't make it, and we're going with like native plants, right? So native plants that are to Michigan and all those. So I can't wait to see it in fruition. You should see the guardianship of the tree I planted today, but our garden's ready to go. Speaking of that, if you're a regular listener, I would really like, you can see me at the office. I'd really like you to either email me, actually message me on Facebook or, we'll figure out a way. Or become a member of tribe1.substack.com, and then we can talk. I want to see some stick pics. I want to see some stick pics going in your garden. And, I want to see the if you're into gardening or whatever it is, it could be flower gardens, all those things. I want to see the spring stuff, right? I want to motivate you guys to get out there. It was so gorgeous today. It was a little hot, yeah, but you get used to it. And then it was great. So send me some of the stick pics. I would love to get those. But the way you can get me those, I think we're going to be able to do it through if you become a newsletter subscriber at Tribe1, TRIB1.substack.com, tribe1.substack.com. And just remember always to subscribe to the Prize Inside a Chiropractor's Journey on Rumble and the Prize Inside a Chiropractor's Journey on YouTube. So those are the shameless promotions that we need to do tonight. Now, let's talk about tonight's episode. Tonight, we're going into Sunday for a little bit. We're going to be talking about some Bruce Lipton, Gregg Braden, conceptual framework. It takes a minute to understand epigenetics and the literal code that is writing our genes. Okay. So I'm going to take a few episodes in a row on Sunday night. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. I had got some good feedback from some of my listeners that are patients. Love that. They were like, this was really, really good. I'm hoping this will add to it tonight. I'm hoping, we kind of introduced who Bruce Lipton was and the epigenetics aspect. You have Gregg Braden, who is showing you the ancient wisdom, ancient consciousness, all these different, the ancient ability to connect through the power of prayer, all those things. So you had kind of in essence, you had Bruce Lipton, who gave you the biological processes. And then you had Gregg Braden going after the spiritual aspect. And that's why they intermesh so well, because that's what kind of those two teachings, that's why I'm like, together, it's a fantastic thing. And they still do seminars and all those kind of things all over the place. So watch for them always. Okay. So tonight is episode 2 of Gregg Braden and Bruce Lipton. It is How Beliefs Control Your Health and Healing. And this one is episode 2, Healing as a Code. Okay. So that's what we're going to go over tonight. And as we go, if you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate. And if there's a part that doesn't make sense, I think this one will make a lot of sense to people. I really do. It's kind of a tougher topic sometimes, but this one is near and dear to my heart because it changed foundationally, like all the things you can do. Okay. All right. So what we're going to go over tonight. So tonight we're going to go deeper into the science of healing as a code. The idea that our beliefs and perceptions aren't just thoughts. They're the actual programming language that rewrites our genetic blueprint, our body chemistry, and even our quantum field of reality itself. Spontaneous healing isn't magic. It's code we can learn to edit. Okay. So I loved that one. I couldn't figure out a good description, but that is it. We can literally rewrite the codes based on the reality that quantum is a real thing, right? Quantum energies, quantum fields, the true reality is there. So it goes beyond the cellular matrix. Okay. So it goes beyond the cell and all of those things. And that's what we have to aspire to. Okay. So here's a quote from Bruce Lipton. The moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. Probably the one of the biggest quotes. It's so simple, but so true. And all of us innately know that this is very true. So Gregg Braden, here's a quote from Gregg Braden. We are never more than a belief away from our greatest love, deepest healing, and most profound miracles. And by the end of this tonight, we'll have a simple way that we'll always go in and starting that. You know how I do in 1% Tribe. If you haven't watched, before we start too, if you haven't watched the first one, we did a little one and we're going to put them all together. But one that's called Heart Brain Coherence. Okay. So it's where you put your hand on your heart. You take a 5-second breath in and out. In and out. And it's just a nice way to kind of do that depth of meditation. I'm going to do another update on the breathing mechanism, the breathing techniques as well. But I do, if you're a subscriber on Rumble or YouTube, way back in the last year, we did a breathing one that went through each breath technique, just to give you the whole idea. But the brain heart coherence is going to be a big deal as we're going forward to literally understand how we can heal and reprogram or rewrite the genetic code. Okay. So biology is a programmable code. It's the combination of, so this is where Bruce Lipton comes in. Traditional science said genes are a fixed entity, okay, or fixed destiny. So Bruce Lipton discovered from stem cell research, and we'll go over that genes are like actual blueprints, and that that beliefs and perceptions are the contractor. I like his too, right? So they're the contractor that uses the blueprints. That's how we decide which buildings get built or express. Okay. Epigenetics means above the genes. So what does that mean? Above the genes. So that's what we're going to talk about. Environment and thoughts switch genes on and off without changing DNA code itself. So that is fascinating, right? So in Bruce Lipton's work, he had found, and I've gone over this before, he was working on liver cells. So he had these liver cells in a petri dish, and he was taking the DNA out of the cells to sequence them to find out what they are all made of. And then, that was the experiment he was doing. I believe he was working for this thing called the Human Genome Project, that the government was running, or, those kind of things through the universities. What he noticed, though, was when he would take out the DNA and start sequencing, he looked back and looked at the liver cell, and the liver cell was actually not dead. He had all the liver out, or I'm sorry, all the DNA out of these liver cells, and these liver cells are still living. And he kept feeding them, and they were literally thriving with like no DNA. When he saw that, he came to the conclusion that DNA is not what we were taught. It's not the key to life, because that's currently what is actually still studied about in science and everything else. Now, is DNA key to a lot of things? Yes. But DNA is where you can have, DNA is literally where these genes are, right? And what he noticed was, what is actually controlling the cell's behavior? What is controlling the cell itself? If I have all the DNA over here in a different petri dish, and they're still active, it eventually will come to, when you start studying it, it's the environment. And I don't want to ruin his, I don't want to go through, I could literally probably read his book to you from my brain. But I will leave there, the cell membrane reads the environment chemically. It tells there's these little proteins that tell it what can go in and out of the cell, right? So it has this like wall, right? So the cell wall all around each cell has these little proteins that are like windows and doors. So these little windows and doors get chosen to be open or closed, like as we go. The environment on the outside of the cell kind of helps tell where the cells go, like when what those cells do. And so what you find is chemically, you can see that the environment with which a cell is in is more important than, maybe the DNA itself. Okay. So that's one reason he ended up not being at the medical school that he was at. And that's how I got to be in one of his classes that he probably would never remember, because it was like he took over our class, pathology, for like a month. It was like one of the coolest things ever. And to have that teacher let that happen was pretty awesome. So I literally have one of his original notebooks on fractal biology, but I digress. So the idea is that beliefs and your environment are the key drivers to cellular behavior, which is the key driver to your biology. Okay. So if we do that, now we have to think about where would our beliefs come from, our thoughts, right? And our environment. Sometimes our environment's not kosher, but what does an innate intelligence do? What is chiropractic's entire mission? Chiropractic's entire mission is to rid you of bad thoughts, toxins, and aid you in healing from traumatic experiences. Thoughts, toxins, trauma, right? We talk about it every week. So why? Because it gives the biology a better environment to have the innate intelligence of the body express itself perfectly. Okay. That's why it's such an integrated idea of, the concept of epigenetics and all of holistic healing, because that's really what the concept I want you to understand as you go. Okay. So that was Bruce Lipton's work. Okay. So let's keep going on that. So stressful beliefs equals disease promoting chemistry, empowering beliefs, healing chemistry. Okay. So this is easier said than done, and we'll talk about that. Subconscious programs, which literally run like 95% of your life that you don't know. You have subconscious internal programs that you're not consciously running. They're all installed by age 7. I would say 6. So one of the things I learned from Dr. Lipton, from birth to 6, you're a tape recorder. Okay. So you're this tape recorder that is just soaking in the environment. We need the sensory signals to understand what the behaviors are. Okay. So a good example of this is when you think of an animal like a dog. Like right now, me and Olive, who one of these days I'll throw a picture up. Olive and I are having a struggle because her sensory perceptions of a dog was that Jeremy was going to give her a bone at exactly 9:00, which is right in the middle of podcasting, or like noon. Okay. And so she has this sensory perception that when she was a little tiny thing, I would give her that thing. And she's 2 clockwork almost at noon and 9:00. Okay. She doesn't read the clock. She doesn't know what time it is, according to our stuff. Right. But she's able to do that. So think of that as like a subconscious program. She knows when it's time to do that. Now, we're built from age birth to 6 years old with massive amounts of subconscious programming getting onto the tape recording, right? And one of the things that happens a lot of times is even in adoptions and those kind of things, if a kid is past 6 or 7, the amount of work it could be to literally help this kid with better behaviors in the world, it's really, really difficult. Where if you get a baby and an infant or a little tiny one, like a newborn, a lot of times that can be massively awesome. You can have a better behavior and environment situation, right? So that's the biggest thing, is understanding that this isn't about us. This is about there's nothing wrong with you if these things are happening. There's nothing wrong with you mentally if there's a sickness out there. That's not what this is about. This is about finding that healing code within you that we can get to that next level without, thinking, oh, it's me, because that doesn't help you either, right? So we'll just go into that. Gosh. Okay. So here's a couple good quotes that I love. Okay. Epigenetics doesn't change the genetic code. Okay. That's key. It changes how it's read. Perfectly normal genes can result in cancer or death. Vice versa, in the right environment, mutant genes won't be expressed at all. Genes are equivalent to blueprints. Okay. So think of little genes as blueprints. Epigenetics is the contractor. So they change the assembly and the structure. So the blueprints are in a rolled up piece of paper in a filing drawer. And the contractor, epigenetics, chooses what blueprints we're going to do, and then you get your gene expression. Okay. Once we understand this, it gives a whole lot better meaning to how we can heal and through a lot more avenues that we can do ourselves, right? So we'll talk about that as well. So this is Lipton again. Suddenly I realized that a cell's life is controlled by the physical and energetic environment and not its genes. Genes are simply molecular blueprints used in the construction of the cells, the tissues, and the organs. The environment serves as a contractor who reads and engages those genetic blueprints. That's it. Here's another Bruce Lipton quote. We are not victims of our genes, but masters of our own fate, able to create lives overflowing with peace, happiness, and love. And those are all paraphrased from his talks, but that is him. Okay, so this one is the story of Sandy. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sandy. And she is from The Office, and it's kind of amazing, actually. So Sandy is she is a teacher. So I change names all the time. So this isn't really Sandy, but Sandy is a teacher that I've known for many, many years. As we progressed through chiropractic, I could see that, she was always a healthy teacher. She was young. She had a mom, like all these things, busy, all those kind of things. Well, what was cool was she started getting into like the chiropractic lifestyle, in the sense of understanding getting adjusted when she should. She started, man, I'm really starting to feel better. She used to lean on like quite a bit of pain meds, those kind of things. Things to sleep, a lot of those things. When she started getting adjusted on a regular basis, those started to go away. Very common, process that happens in chiropractic. One of the things she wanted to explore a little bit more holistic as she got to know our office. So she started doing like massages. And so that was getting her muscle system going. And then she started, like as she goes, and then she worked with Dr. Rachel in her fixing her metabolism through her diet. Okay. So she wasn't really needing to lose a ton of weight, but just wanted to feel better. Right. So Rachel's program is a series of ways to literally reset your digestive system on the same time you're fixing your metabolism. Once that started happening, you literally saw her lose the weight. She looked fantastic, all those things. But something else happened. Energetically, she was never an athlete, not once. Didn't play an athletic sport in high school, nothing. Her metabolism got to a point where she's feeling so good, she decided to start bike riding. She not only took on bike riding, she ended up liking it so much that she started doing many, many different races and all over the place, to the point I was like, I'm just sitting back just so proud of watching her epigenetics in action. We could say her literal gene structure, right? The entire system started to change, and it was over time, right? It was over many, many things, but as her successes started going in the right direction, her unhealthy kind of ways started converting into this place where now she's like this sweet athlete that goes out and does a lot of these races. And it's fascinating to me to like just watch those kind of things in action, because we see it every day. Chiropractors don't talk about it enough. One day I'll talk to you about another guy, little old man that started taking care of himself on a regular basis. And I mean, I thought he was never going to stand up straight and tall. Not anymore, folks. He's doing a really good job of getting to there. And all of it is about epigenetics, changing the environment, the subconscious program. We say those things, but when we step into the reaction of doing those things, all of a sudden it makes sense and you can see the actual stuff. So Lipton shows us the code inside our cells. Now we're going to talk about Gregg Braden, and he takes it further outside of our body into the quantum field, where beliefs literally do rewrite the code of the reality itself. So this one's a little more out there, but I love it because it makes sense. So if you can remember back to me talking about chiropractic principles, so this will help. There's this innate inborn intelligence within our bodies. Each cell of our body is super intelligent and knows what to do. So intelligently, this innate intelligence, if it's not interfered with, is perfect. Okay. Now, there is this, and the innate intelligence is designed to function in what they call universal intelligence. So the universe, I like the word materium, the things around us, our surrounding environment. Our innate intelligence is actually designed to take on and adapt to this universal intelligence, this universal environment on a regular basis. The universal environment, however, you must remember this, is also intelligent. Okay. So everything has structure. Anything that has rules and laws, the laws of physics prove, in a sense. Now we're talking quantum, right? So there's a lot of stuff out there that we'll talk about. Maybe one day we'll do the crazy quantum show, because I love that subject, because it's going to change our physics quite a bit once we actually inundate it. And Bruce Lipton's been around. I bet he taught us this 26 years ago, and DNA is still called the key of life in textbooks. So think about how long that'll actually take, which is mind blowing anyway. But think of that. So we're talking about quantum reality, the energies. So if you think I'm crazy, look up biofield, human biofield, and look that we have a human energetic biofield that's 5 feet around us. Some people call them the chakras and the auras. Okay. And so just think that way. If quantum and some of these other words kind of bother you in that sense, don't think that way, right? Get in something easy. Remember what I always say: if I can put a headband on you and fly a drone, you got to believe there's some kind of energy outside the body. Just letting you know. It literally happens every day. Look it up on YouTube. You can see companies have that. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about Gregg Braden's side of the puzzle, because we went into Bruce Lipton's in the genes and everything else. So now we're going to get outside of the body and talk about it. So belief as the universal code. In his books, which I love, I recommend them highly, The Divine Matrix and Spontaneous Healing of Belief. The universe is a responsive divine matrix, an energy field that mirrors our heart-based feelings and beliefs. Spontaneous healing happens when we shift from limiting beliefs to empowering ones, essentially rewriting the code of reality. Belief is not just positive thinking. It's a program that creates patterns in the quantum field. And let me read the whole slide and then we'll talk about it. Braden's belief codes from the Spontaneous Healing Belief book and wisdom codes, ancient word patterns, prayer, spoken with heart coherence, act like software updates for the healing body, emotions, and life. So think about that. Belief isn't just positive thinking. It's programs that pattern the quantum field. It's saying we need to start setting, this is a very preemptive. We want to take care of our thoughts. We want to take care of our beliefs. In almost one of the most crucial things you can possibly do is by understanding your thoughts and your beliefs and really understanding the importance of not allowing them to be others, right? If I'm sitting on TV and I'm angry at the news, that's allowing someone else to control my thought pattern. If it literally creates our quantum reality, which literally translates to epigenetics, which you're going to show in genes are modified based on this. Is it worth watching something that's going to tick you off? Probably not, right? And that's one of the biggest things that happens. We're like, oh yeah, I'll think positively when I'm not watching right after the news and what the gas price is or whatever, right? I think that's the one hard part that I see in our just society today. We can't even have conversations without trying to have a negative, right? Man, the weather. I catch myself doing it all the time, trying to get a conversation going with somebody. And I use wildly dumb things. Man, it's cold outside. What is that? Why does that matter? Like in that sense, because it gets you in a conversation that doesn't actually move you towards a direction that would be fantastic, right? Your beliefs are important. Your thought processes are very important. And that's why one of the things about this quantum, and it's so inspiring, is because you can literally heal. And Bruce Lipton found the epigenetic bystander that our environment will create that. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So when we choose to embark on a different career path or a new relationship or to heal a life-threatening disease, we're really rewriting the code of reality. Okay. So sometimes things happen in our reality, in our universal environment that we cannot control. Correct? All of you would probably say that. Give me a thumbs up for that one for sure. Because this doesn't mean you can control your environment. Please understand that. It means that you can control your thoughts and your beliefs based on whatever situation you're in. And there are going to be things thrown into your environment that are going to cause you to write a different program, right? And so when you pick a different career path, when you pick, like you heal from something massive, you can literally rewrite that code and it can change you even further in the right direction. I cannot wait. I'm trying to get permission for this one YouTube video I really want to show you guys. It's pretty remarkable on a kid that he was autistic. He was cerebral palsy and autistic. And they kept working with him. And he still has some cerebral palsy, but it's much like 90% more functional than it used to be. It was a fantastic YouTube video. So my hopes are I can get like not copyright struck for it and get it out there, but I'll see if I can get some permissions on it. So Anyway, so here's the biggest thing. It's through the power of human belief. Okay. Through the power of human belief, we are given the equally divine ability to bring what we believe to life in the matrix of energy that bathes and surrounds us. So, almost every religious teaching taught that if you believe in the gifts that you have strong enough, you can do almost anything, right? Or anything. And that by itself is a fantastic concept to get within you, right? And so when we do those kind of things, the conscious belief system, if we can get to that moment of belief that the ancients knew, all the people knew this stuff. And that's why I love, if you ever go through Gregg Braden's book, the ancient prayers, the meditations, the massive amounts of prayer, the healing abilities of various spiritual entities, churches, all of those things. Why is spirituality and healing together? It's been together for 2,000 years. Why did they pick those two? Because prayer and meditation spiritually is connected to the physiological being, the biology that you have. Okay. All right. Let's go into this last one. Is another quote from Braden. Belief is the program that creates patterns in reality. And I should have said these are all quotes from Gregg Braden as well. So belief is the program that creates patterns in reality. Okay, so this is the one that I wanted to show you. I want to show you the universal code in action. Okay, and this is a true story. They studied it quite a bit. This was a 1993 national demonstration project, also known as the Maharishi effect research, conducted in Washington, D.C. In the early 1990s, Washington, D.C. had one of the highest violent crime rates in the U.S., often called the murder capital of the world. From June 7th to July 30th, there was 4,000 practitioners of what they call transcendental meditation and transcendental CD programs, an advanced form of meditation involving group practice, sometimes described in spiritual context as generating coherence or peace gathered in the city. They meditated together in large groups twice daily, sessions lasting between 2.5 and 4 hours. At locations like Washington's Hilton, college campuses, and other sites. The goal was to test whether the collective practice could actually reduce crime by lowering societal stress and increasing collective consciousness. The research was a prospective experiment planned in advance and was overseen by a 27-member independent project review board of socialists, criminologists, police representatives, and civic leaders. Weekly crime data came from the DC Metropolitan Force. Researchers used the time series analysis and controlled for variables like temperature, which correlates, and weather, daylight, historical trends, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So here is the findings. Homicides, rapes, and assaults decreased significantly as the meditating group grew larger. The maximum drop was 23.3% below predicted levels during the final week when the group was at 4,000. With the longer baseline, they think it would have been up to 24.6. All violent crimes were down 15.6% in that same time frame. Okay, so the key to this study. Now, there was another one that they did with prayer. Okay, so they took a very staunch prayer group and they did it in St. Louis, Missouri. I couldn't find that study, but I know it worked. So they did a very focused prayer on reducing crime in the St. Louis, Missouri area because they have a lot of violent crime as well. What was crazy was in that St. Louis one, the thing that was nuts is the violent crime did reduce. What they focused on with their meditation literally improved it. But the other crimes, the other types of crime, non-violent, stayed the same. Isn't that wild? So a lot of times when you're looking at this, that is the universal code in action. Once we all start doing that, once we completely focus in on understanding how this belief system works, working that, belief is a code. We got to do that, right? Healing is that code. All right. So that was fun. All right. Now we can talk about how their work kind of collides. So Lipton gives you the biological mechanisms, right? The epigenetics, the cell chemistry, and that's great. And we talk a little bit about some of the stuff we will do, the subconscious programs with it already neurologically embedded, right? So you have these subconscious blueprints that are sitting there open, ready to be read, right? Gregg Braden gives you the quantum spiritual side with the beliefs and this, what they call the divine matrix, these beliefs, and that your entire energy that is with your universal, with the universal environment and the connector. So that's one reason I wanted to do this series, because healing is not a passive, it never will be. It's a conscious code editing via perception, emotion, and brain coherence with all the other things. So if we're doing the things in healing, but we don't change our mind, we don't change our health and healing within our mind, then we give ourselves a really not the best chance for the health and healing aspect. Beliefs are the bridge between the seen and the unseen, the body and the energy field. When aligned, spontaneous healing can and may occur, and it's happened before. So what old belief code might you be ready to rewrite now? Now, me and you are not going to start with something crazy. We're going to start with a simple belief code that we need to rewrite, and so we're going to talk about that. All right, so now we get to start. Hopefully you enjoyed tonight. Healing is a code. It helps understand that we can live this way. We can start this process. Like one of the reasons I say 1%, right? Most of the time, my 1% tribers, 1%'s something that doesn't give you guilt. If I said, improve yourself 10% today, that's a tough challenge. And then if you only get to 8, human nature says I'm guilty and I'm not going to do it anymore, right? Healing as a code kind of helps set the framework that I'm going to work on all the alls. I'm going to have a great mindset. I'm going to have great healing, or I'm going to eat good food. I'm going to work with good exercise movements and patterns, right? I'm going to have great relationships. I'm going to work on all these things, because at the end of the day, that it's going to help you so much in just your healing. And it's kind of like I tell people, it's selfish, sort of. You're like selfishly having a great day, and my staff always knows I get driven nuts a little bit by how unhappy some people come out of bed and they're barely moving and they don't have a good energy when they start their day. And I agree with that. There's not every day you can get up that way, but if you can change just that one little thing, you can really take it to the next level. So tonight we're going to go over a couple things I want you to start doing. Don't beat yourself up over these things, because these are, some of them take years. Some of them take some different processes that you got to look at. But a lot of it's going to be stuff we can do at home right away. Okay. So let's look at the first thing I want you to do is become aware of the subconscious programs. Okay. So find out and write down what you think you have as coding. Now, I think this would probably even be better if you have a loved one or something that knows you well, to write down, what do you think I run subconsciously? What do you think, like as my day goes, do you see me run? And you're like, he doesn't even know he's going over there to do that. I can tell you one from my parents that they would, when they watch, they would know the moment I hit, to this day, I still do it. The moment I hit the front door, I immediately go to the snack cupboard and open it. They are not into any good snacks like they used to with 3 boys. I'm telling you, I had way better snacks back then, but it's hilarious to watch us actually go. I go right straight to the snack drawer every time. Or the next one is chocolate chip cookies, because my mom was like ridiculous on the chocolate chip cookies. It was just one of those things. But those are different awarenesses that you can understand. If you understand the subconscious program, you can see yourself doing that, right? I see myself doing this, right? So write a journal, figure out these different subconscious belief patterns, right? Start easy on yourself. Don't get into some crazy, the crazy, more intense ones. There's a lot to these subconscious programs. Understand that. Okay. We have a bunch of these things built in. Sometimes you're going to need help to understand what the bigger ones are. Okay. Some of us had environments that were absolute garbage, horrible situations, right? One of my favorite podcasters, I just found out, was abused as a child. But he didn't have the heart to tell his parents that. This is a crazy story. I can't believe I've listened to this podcast and he just drops it. So he's abused by his babysitter's son, abused him, but he didn't have the heart to tell anyone because his parents really liked this babysitter. He waited until they both had passed away to even talk about it. That is some wild darkness. Wow. That one blew me away a little bit. And, as he's by far my favorite podcaster, he just spews out amazing podcasts. But anyway, think about that, right? I'm not asking you to change all of those beliefs overnight. Well, my thing is we need to look at them though, because the more you don't look at them, the more they become subconscious. And then how are you going to get to the healing mechanism that you want to, right? So, all right. So I'll leave it at that. Reprogramming. There's a few techniques I want to tell you about. One is actually pretty easy to get, sort of. And then there's 2 that I want to talk to you guys about that are that'll be good tools for you. So the Bruce Lipton likes to say this one is called Psyche. Okay, Psyche. It's a pretty intense psychological subconscious programming framework. I think one of these days I will be taking that. I can't wait. But one day I will be doing that. If I run into the time aspect where I can actually do it, that would be fantastic. This one called Emotional Freedom Technique, or EFT. If you've ever seen it on YouTube, like tapping, if you put in EFT, you're going to get a ton of cool videos. Okay. So YouTube has a ton on that technique. That could be a really, really good technique to start looking into. It's pretty cool. It's like you actually tap on various parts, acupuncture wise. They're kind of connected that way, or bioenergetically. There's certain points, and literally it can be used for a ton of stuff. Okay. So EFT is fantastic. Very good self-healing kind of situation there. The other one I like is affirmations in the theta wave state. So the theta state is, there's certain, all right. Let me look that up for you guys. I want to find a good source. Okay, bear with me. Okay. So there's some. If you look up on YouTube, they will do it. I'm looking for any other one. Oh, you can get it on Spotify. That's cool. So there's quite a few. I would say put in there theta affirmations. Okay. So put in theta affirmations or affirmations in theta wave. Okay. And go look, whatever you like. If Spotify, that's crazy. I didn't know Spotify would have something like that. So that's really cool. There's several apps out there that can help you with the phone aspect, right? So if you want to do it through a phone or, those kind of things. Theta waves is a certain brain processes that get you going, like when you're sleeping or just before that. But when you do that, you're kind of burying into that subconscious. Your theta wave does that. So remember that one as well. There's another one. There's another place to look called Heart Math. So look up Heart Math as well. There's literally, they have a little heart. It's a little monitor on your finger that helps understand the brainwave coherence. I want to talk to him and see if I can get for my listeners, maybe get a little connector to Heart Maths and see how much. I don't know. It's not a pricey piece of equipment. Sometimes it's really, really good, but it goes through the breathing technique of just being able to do that back and forth and that heart coherence between your breathing and your heart. And it gives you this patterning. It's really cool. And the app will kind of have you practice as you go. Those are all things. You do them over and over again. It becomes part of your subconscious program more than the other stuff, right? So hopefully, and then the last one is something you absolutely could do, right? Is daily practice of 5 to 10 minutes feeling gratitude as if the healing that you want has already happened. Or, and this goes for healing of any aspect, right? So any aspect. So, healing in a relationship, healing your knee, all of these things. One of the things that I thought was amazing, and I don't want to ruin Gregg Braden's book or Bruce Lipton's, but Gregg Braden's ones, the Divine Matrix, the Spontaneous Healing of Belief, both of them are amazing. But one of the ones I was telling Dr. Matt about. So Gregg Braden went out to this tribe that was using the power of prayer, ancient power of prayer, very specific in how they did their prayers. That was the other thing. Be intentional with your movements, right? It's always saying, I can be happy. No, intentionally get into a great place and you can actually see this stuff work. So he tells this story where he's going into this, like the chief of this tribe. So he goes up to the chief of the tribe and it's been very, he's like, come with us. We're going to go pray to our God for rain because it's been a super massive flood, right? Super massive drought for a long, long time. So they go in. And what he noticed about the prayer was that they were thanking God for the water they're going to get eventually, right? So it's basically like, thank you, God, for the beautiful rain that you're espoused upon us, and we're just so appreciative of all things. And then they started naming off all these other things they're grateful for. They didn't say, please, God, give me this, right? That was a much different aspect. Hopefully you guys are hearing what I'm saying. Thank you, God, for this beautiful water. Thank you, God, for the food that we've gotten. Like, thank you, God. There was no, even if, like that kind of thing. They were just saying thank you. Well, then the next day, I guess in the thing, it poured like a crazy person. So it just absolutely dumped on them. And I think that one of my favorite parts of this book, you'll know which book. I can't remember which book it's from, but the chief looks at Gregg Braden and looks at him and goes, "Well, we haven't perfected how much rain or how much water we ask, our God." So I thought that was a cool story, but it's one of those, like, think about that. The gratitude train is so important to really feel about in that aspect too. Okay. So healing isn't something that happens to us. It's code we were born with the power to edit. We're born with it, but we can also edit it. Remember that. And this is the big one. If you get into this, I hope this helps getting into writing your own code or rewriting your code. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about it in the comments in videos. I want you to reach out. Hit me up on Messenger on Facebook, tribe1.substack.com, trib1.substack.com. Let me know how that goes. And there will be next week, I'm going to do episode 3. Okay. Episode 3. Oh, interesting. Okay. So episode 3 will become but remember this, because I love this quote this is from Gregg Braden. Feeling is the language that speaks to the divine matrix. Feeling is the language that speaks to the divine matrix. And so remember this. I told you 2 different stories. Remember Sandy, the teacher, that converted her genetic code to become an all-world, pretty amazing biker to this day. And that prayer group is absolutely, like the idea that a group of 4,000 focused individuals can literally change the crime rate should tell you everything. So I recommend strongly getting every book by Gregg Braden and every book by Bruce Lipton, reading them like crazy. This is one way I can be, me and you can do our little book club. So with that said, guys, we'll see you Wednesday night, right? Wednesday night should be fantastic. It's going to be Whole Health Weekly, 8:30. 8:30 on Wednesday night, and we go over all the different articles and stuff. But thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy you guys like this topic. I can't get enough. That's one reason why we got to do it in I'm probably going to be up to about 5 or 6 episodes, honestly, because there's so much to this process, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. If we can get more people to understand, it would take our healing journeys to another level. So let's shatter the paradigms of false limits, and let's get you next week. See you Wednesday. Have a great one.